Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new Pory Wrench stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, "Which Tries to Destroy My Orchard, I Bankrupt Her and Get Her House Torn Down." Well, let's start a few years in the past. My great-grandparents planted an orchard. It is now at least 120 years old. My grandparents and my parents were really proud of the peach trees growing in it and did their best to keep them in good health and well. We always threw a big party when the peaches were ready to be harvested and invited all of our friends and neighbors to it. I loved those parties. The neighbors on the property to the south of our orchard were particularly fond of our peaches. They were a bunch of fine old people, and me and the old man, Sam, were pretty good friends. He taught me a lot about woodworking with hand tools only, and we had some great evenings in his workshop, and we finished many a good whiskies in there together. In return, he got a lot of fine peaches, marmalade, homemade peach liqueur, etc. Sadly, he died a good 10 years ago. Cancer is a real hole. His wife followed soon after. Many suspected it was of a broken heart. They had no kids, so all of their property was left to the state, except his tools and whiskey collection, which he had gifted me a few weeks before he died. In comes Karen. The name speaks for itself. Haircut, attitude, witchiness. The whole deal. She bought the property of my late neighbors. We hadn't had the kind of money to buy it at that time, as we had met some dire straits the years before and all our savings were gone. The first thing she did before she actually moved in was to go round and making demands of the neighbors on the surrounding properties. When it was finally our turn to listen to her gibberish, she told us that we needed to remove half of the trees, as the leaves were blowing on her property. We told her in a polite way that we won't comply to her demands, as the orchard is a vital part of our family heritage, tradition, life, and has been there for at least 120 years. She was pretty upset but did nothing for the time being. There are some things you need to know before I continue with the story. The workshop I mentioned before was situated right at the border to our property. It was a small timber-framed building, at least 160 to 180 years old. The regulations in my state are pretty strict concerning old structures. Every structure over 100 years is protected and you need a special permission to tear it down. Failing to get this permission can lead to a hefty fine. To get the permission to build a new building, it has to be up to code and you have to ask your surrounding neighbors, and if they agree, you're good to go. Except there is one specialty in my county. You have to keep a certain distance to the border of the property to allow emergency services full access to your property. If one of these requirements isn't met, the building is illegal, or at least only partially legal, and can actually be ordered by court to be torn down. That might come in handy later. So, back to my Karen. After our first encounter with her, she did her best to pester the whole neighborhood. She got the neighbor's dog put down, because he allegedly attacked her brat. It later turned out she faked the attack. The dog was the sweetest and most innocent dog you could imagine. A Bernese mountain dog, big, but a real teddy bear. Anyways. She later got us to stop doing our annual peach parties, as she called the police every time for various reasons. Noise complaints, we had a band playing there in the afternoon. Arson, we lit a fire in a designated fire pit in the middle of our property. She called the ATF on us, allegedly making moonshine. My dad had a license to distill for our own consumption. In short, she was a real pain in the butt, and after 3 years we decided it wasn't worth it to deal with various officers and law enforcement agencies every time we threw the party, and we decided to quit. After she had reached this goal, she resorted to pestering us to remove the orchard. We didn't cave in, and some things started to get really fishy. Somehow the tires of our trucks got slashed, eggs got thrown on our farmhouse, our cat disappeared and surfaced a few days later in pretty rough condition. It looked like somebody had tried to cut his tail off. Don't worry, he healed up completely, but we actually couldn't prove that she did all that. Then came the day she made her biggest mistake. She had a company come in a sort of secret operation and tear down the old woodworking workshop overnight. 2 days later, they started building a big garage, recreational center, house right where the shop was, but she missed one fine detail, which got pretty important later on. She didn't ask for our permission, nor for the neighbors. A short while after, the trees right next to her property started to get sick. The leaves turned brown in the middle of summer, and the branches started to die. We lost 4 trees, before we figured out the cause. Somebody had driven long copper nails into them. We had a suspicion, but we couldn't prove it. So we put up some trail cameras. Perfectly legal, as it was on our own property. We caught her red-handed. My dad confronted her, she apologized, and my dad, being the way too nice guy he is, wanted to let her get off the hook. But not me. The nail she drove into our oldest tree was the final nail to her coffin. I started to investigate. I had some friends at the administration of our county and asked them to do some inquiries. Turned out she hasn't applied for permission to tear down the old shop, nor for permission to build a new building. I further did some inquiries on the borderline of our property. Turned out the old markers vanished over time and her building was about 3 feet on our property. After I had gathered all this information, I presented it to my parents. At first they were reluctant as they didn't want to start a neighborhood clash. But after I recalled all the things she did to us and our neighbors, they were in. So let the games begin. First we called the authorities on her for tearing down a protected building and presented them with all the evidence we gathered. Then we called the building authorities on her for building a building without permission, not up to code, and not only didn't she keep the required distance to the property border, she also built on our property without our permission. Long story short, turned out the workshop hasn't only been protected because of its age, but also because it was a historical landmark, which played a vital role in a conflict back in the 1860s. She got sued for this, and had to pay a fine of an equivalent of about $150,000. She further had to demolish her newly built building, costing an additional $50,000, got fined for this too, about $83,000, and had to rebuild the workshop on her own expense, which was another whopping $154,000, as it had to be period correct up to the smallest detail. Means it had to be built with the correct materials, with hand tools only, and to the correct dimensions. As you can imagine, paying professionals to build quite a large timber-framed building only by hand gets pretty expensive pretty fast. So, all in all, it cost her an equivalent of $437,000 plus further expenses as lawyers etc. This caused her to go bankrupt, so she had to sell the property in the end, which my parents bought, by the way. Last I heard of her was that she moved back to the big city. The next one is titled, Steal My Wallet? Enjoy getting caught literally red-handed and losing your job. I work at a supermarket, and for a while a few years back, stuff would get stolen out of people's bags in the break room. It was mostly cash, phone chargers, headphones, little things like that. We did have little lockers in the break room, but they're maybe 1 foot by 1 foot and too small to hold anything larger than a medium-sized purse, so if someone had a larger bag or even a large puffy jacket, it wouldn't fit. I usually carry a messenger bag big enough to fit a notebook or sketchbook in. I like to draw or write while on break, which was too big to stick in one of the lockers without having it get stuck, and I usually stashed it under a coat rack. I hardly ever keep money or anything more valuable than a mechanical pencil in my bag while at work. I keep any money or my debit card on me at all times. Except for one particular day. Before work one particular Sunday I had to go buy a new television since mine had suddenly stopped working the night before. I must have forgotten to take my wallet out of my bag before heading to work, because the following day, I discovered it was missing. However, whoever took it only took the wallet because my debit card, college ID, and my MBTA Boston's subway system fare card had been thrown in my bag. The wallet in question was a small Coach brand wallet, so I can see why they took it, but I had only spent about $14 on it since I got it at a Coach outlet store, so it wasn't like I spent a lot on it. As annoying as it was to have my television die in the middle of playing an online video game, thankfully on the Switch, so I could at least finish the match I was in, because I had to buy a new television, I had spent the $150 cash that I had been keeping in my wallet up until that point. After meeting with the management and our loss prevention guy, LP for short, the consensus was basically, "We're sorry that happened to you, but there's nothing we can do about it. Keep your stuff locked up from now on." Which I did. I started locking my bag to the coat rack with a bike lock. The market I work at is union, so management isn't allowed to put cameras in the break room. So I talked to our LP guy about it a little more and asked him if I would get in trouble if I were to put a prank wallet filled with glitter and powdered food coloring in my bag, and he said, not at all. I also went to the union steward about it, and he also said I wouldn't get in trouble, but also told me to be careful. So I put my plan into motion. I bought a fake Coach wallet that cost more than the one that had been stolen, go figure, some edible glitter and powdered red food coloring. I sewed a strip of elastic into the opening of the wallet. The wallet had a zippered pocket for money and cards, then stuffed it with as much of the glitter and food coloring powder as I could so that when the wallet was opened, all the glitter and food coloring would pop out all over the hands of the person who opened it. I then planted it in my bag and waited. I didn't have to wait very long. A few weeks later, I heard from our LP guy that a cashier had been going through people's bags again and fell for my glitter bomb wallet hook, line and sinker, tried to then wash the glitter off her hands, which activated the powdered red food coloring. She then freaked out when it stained her hands bright red and went to management about it. She wanted the person who planted the wallet to get in trouble for it, but since it had been with another worker's personal belongings and the wallet wasn't harmful or illegal, there was nothing they could do to the worker who did it. The girl ended up getting fired for openly admitting to going through people's bags for money and other valuables, and ended up throwing 2 other cashiers under the bus for stealing from people as well. They were fired shortly after. I did get spoken to by management after the fact, since they knew that I had planted the wallet in my bag, but the discussion was more or less, we know the wallet was yours, we didn't tell the person who tried taking it that it was yours, and we're not going to tell you that you can't that again. The next one is titled, Lost $20, just to spite an idiot buyer. I was trying to sell an uncommon retro game online for a while, and last Friday one annoying customer started to pestering me to get the price down. It was a loose, scuffed game, kinda niche, but the cheapest of the 2 posted over the website. I was asking for $25, plus shipping. Dude tried to put down the price, bad-mouthing everything about my item, that he is a collector, yada yada, no box, if I could do installments and free shipping. As wannabe seller, I took my time trying to explain things till I just could not handle anymore. I sent him the link of another seller, who had a new boxed game just a little more expensive but free shipping and accepted installments, because it would be better for a collector like him. And the guy still had to bad-mouth me before skip to upset the other seller. I doubled my price to get the stupid away, but a good customer who I gave a $5 discount asked for my original offer. Good customer bought on Wednesday, yesterday. Out of curiosity, I started to follow the interaction of the other seller with the bad customer. Buyer was still an idiot, but they worked out to finish the transaction on another website, who asks for less commission and if you have a coupon, like me, free shipping. The other seller posted over there on Sunday and I found out immediately. The bad buyer just ghosted, but over there you can't follow other people interactions. As soon as my good customer bought my game, I went to the other website and bought the same item, new, boxed, with free shipping, in 2 installments. The new item would cost me $65, bought for $40, got bad customers haggle and free shipping. Sold my old item for $20, it would cost the bad customer my item about $30. The other seller, fast as fudge, shipped his item, probably to not deal with bad customer, today. When the new game arrives, I will post back on the first website for $70 plus shipping. It will be the only one, plus new and boxed. No haggle allowed. I'm not really interested in selling, just want to spite the other guy. The next one is titled, Got Revenge on an Evil Teacher and Ruined Her Rug. This happened when I was in 2nd grade. Back in the prehistoric 60s. A few things you should know. First, I am a redhead. I burned very easily when I was younger, and we didn't have sunscreen or sunblock back then, like we do now. At the time, my family and I lived in Tucson, Arizona. And this takes place right after Easter. Now, this teacher, whom I swear was older than God, didn't like me for some reason. She'd always single me out for some bullshit or other. Well, I'd forgotten a math paper that I was supposed to bring back. So she told me, if I forgot it again, the next day, she'd set me outside the classroom all day. Our classroom was in a portable building, outside of the actual school building. No hallways. So, instead of doing like most of the teachers did for young students, and sending home a note pinned to my clothes, she just didn't. Needless to say, I forgot the paper again. She sat me outside with my desk and chair and everything. Like I said, right after Easter, in the desert. And I was wearing my new Easter sundress. Outside. All day. And she told me not to move from that spot. By the time class was over, my face, upper chest, upper back, and arms were bright red, and forming blisters. My legs didn't get burnt because they were under my desk all day. And back then, parents didn't come pick up the kids, we walked ourselves home. So by the time I got home, evil teacher was gone. My grandmother took one look at me and exploded, not at me. I told her what happened, and she called my mum at work. By the time my mum got home, the blisters had formed, and I was in tears. I missed school the next day, because I was in so much pain, and my mother missed work to go ballistic on the school. I was able to go back to school a couple days later, and evil teacher jumped my butt. Why didn't you move to the shade? Because you told me not to. Apparently, I was burnt worse than we thought, because I was beginning to feel kinda crappy. It was time for reading, and we all moved our chairs around this big old braided rug that evil teacher had just brought to the class not 2 weeks before. ... And I felt worse. The class each took turns reading, and I just kept feeling worse and worse. Then it came my turn. I opened my mouth to read. And vomited all over evil teacher's braided rug. I got sent home, and no one ever saw that rug again. Of course, evil teacher scolded me for not getting away from her precious rug, but less than shrugs greater than I was 8. Vomit happens. I didn't understand why, back then, that I felt a kind of satisfaction over that incident, but my older self knows it was lovely, petty revenge. The next one is titled, Unwilling to Pay. Let them eat semen cake. So, I'm a 17-year-old web dev who can make basic websites and stuff to earn money for video games. The job is pretty easy for the pay. I get picked up by some local bakery so people could pre-order cakes and stuff online. Took a few hours to puke out a functional back end and a day to make it all pretty, thanks Bootstrap. I had agreed for 700 rupees, basically $10, which is insanely cheap even for India, but all I need is video game money, so I'm good with that. When I'm done with the job, they needed to purchase the domains and a server, which I explicitly told them, you pay me 10, and use another 10 to buy a domain and 5 to rent servers. Total is $25. They give me $15 so I could set their stuff up. Once the website was fully operational, I asked for my money. But apparently they didn't want to pay because, if I wasn't hosting the server anyways, why do I need compensation? You know, because apparently time has no value. The thing was I could still access the server as I had the credentials for the server. So I go home, log in and make one tiny change. The way the website works is that there's a customer page which shows you your orders and there's a page for the store owners to see orders, payments, etc. Here's what I did, added a small inconspicuous may contain semen warning in all product details. In the page where it shows you order confirmations to the customer, some options are changed with semen, so like semen frosting, one by random. The website went down in about a week and they're back selling on Facebook. Guessing someone complained or something. The last one is titled, So You Want to Keep Being a Lying, Abusive, Cheating, Narcissistic Home Wrecker? Okay. My ex-good friend is a despicable woman. Since high school she has cheated on every single guy she's been with. She's been through 3 husbands in 7 years. She preys on military men because she's after the benefits, money, and knows it's really easy to cheat on them. She loves to have a husband and date multiple men behind his back. She does this while also trying to convince and manipulate her exes into getting back with her. Some even fall for it because of trauma bond she's created with them. She's also physically and mentally, emotionally abusive. Just some examples of things she's done: has tried multiple times to ruin her first ex-husband's marriage and has tried to weed her way back into his life despite knowing he has a family, despite being married herself, got pregnant by guys she's cheating with and had abortions, used her husband's deployment pay to buy things for the guys she's cheating with, opened multiple credit cards and other lines of credit under husband's info under power of attorney just to not pay things back and ruin their credit, has nearly ruined men's careers, lives by accusing rape just to try to convince husband that she wasn't cheating, and so much more. The thing is, she still tries to pretend like she's some great loyal person and makes up lies to always make it look she's the victim in her relationships, failed relationships. I'm just so tired of it. I'm tired of her hurting people and wrecking lives and getting away with it. She gets away with it and still does whatever she wants because she is well-spoken and seems to have a great personality and is so good at manipulating and hiding who she truly is. Revenge. So I made a TikTok exposing her. I didn't say her name but posted a bunch of pictures of her with descriptions. Basically warning people, specifically men in her area and military men, of the kind of person she is. I also made sure to mention that even though she pretends she's single on her social medias, she even tries to edit out her wedding rings in pictures she posts, and at work, she's very much currently married. It got a few hundred views and even a few responses, a couple of who actually either knew her or had heard of her and her slimy ways. Anyways, here's the funny part. Maybe kind of lame, but I know it will bother her to no end. I didn't feel comfortable leaving the video up for long, so before I deleted it, I took screenshots of a few of the slides. I then used my excellent Photoshop skills to make it appear as though the video had over 200k likes, hundreds of comments, and thousands of shares. I then proceeded to send them to her and even fibbed a bit, telling her that the person had posted proof of things she'd done, and that the video had even gotten several duets from people she'd screwed over in the past. I covered up the username as well. Now she has no way of finding the video, but thinks that there is this exposing video of her out there that hundreds of thousands of people have now seen. It's going to drive her crazy and she'll never be able to find the video or do anything about it. She has since disabled her Instagram and Snapchat. Thanks for listening.